Ratchet & Clank fans, food is coming. Though it's not like we've really been starved. I mean, we did get a game back in 2021, but food is coming. So it's that time of the month again, where the PlayStation Plus catalog gets an update for some new games to be added on the 16th of the month. The new games were recently revealed, and we got some fantastic news looking at classic Ratchet & Clank. This is something that I've been eagerly awaiting to happen, especially with seeing Sly returning to the PlayStation Store. We can now play Sly 1 at least on PS4 and PS5. With trophy support. We also know that within the same month that Sly was added, Daxter was also added to the service as well, meaning that literally every single Jak and Daxter game can now be played on modern systems. And it would seem as if PlayStation are finally starting to gear up to bring some of the classic Ratchet & Clank games to the service, which is interesting that it's taken them this long to finally bring some of the Ratchet games, like the older ones, considering that Ratchet & Clank is still a franchise that is alive and well. But it was announced that Ratchet & Clank Size Matters, which first released on PlayStation Portable, later got a PlayStation 2 port, is coming to the PlayStation Store on the 16th of this month. The very first classic Ratchet game to come to modern systems. And this one's exciting, man, because for one, this is a great game, even though it wasn't developed by Insomniac Games. It was actually developed by High Impact Games, the dudes responsible for Jak and Daxter: The Lost Frontier. Don't worry, if you haven't played this, they absolutely cooked hard with Size Matters. They absolutely fumbled, tripped over, and scraped their knees with The Lost Frontier, but I assure you that Size Matters is pretty decent. This game actually has quite a lot going for it. I think the arsenal, like the range of weapons in this one specifically, was a little bit underwhelming, but the armor system is something that's really cool. I think it's actually the best and coolest armor system in any of the Ratchet & Clank games. Essentially, you could mix and match several different armor pieces, and all of which had different effects. With some specific armor pieces, there were like unique combinations that you could unlock and discover. This was just really, really cool, something that we've never seen in any other Ratchet & Clank game. The classic hoverboard racing that was in the very first Ratchet game on PS2 returned for Size Matters. It was super cool that they actually brought this back. Can't forget about the game's dream sequence. This actually terrified me as a kid, especially those eyeball sentries that were scattered throughout the level. Yeah, this is probably the most memorable part of Size Matters for me personally. And also, you start the game in Pokotaro, which is without a doubt one of the best Ratchet & Clank planets in the entire series, so that's just bonus points. The story is that sort of typical to be expected Ratchet & Clank type narrative that you would expect from Ratchet & Clank during that time, so don't expect anything crazy. It's kind of cool though because it gives a little bit of backstory towards the character of Quark. I just really enjoy this game. It was actually the first PlayStation Portable game I ever played. In fact, it was the reason why I bought a PSP in the first place. Of course, this means that we are going to be getting trophy support, so there will be a juicy platinum trophy. This would be a first for Size Matters. In the past, we've of course had trophy support for the first 3 Ratchet & Clank games, along with Deadlocked, or depending on your country, Gladiator. Speaking of those games though, I do hope that they do come to PS4 and PS5, because obviously they are the best. Those are the ones that we're really wanting. We know that Sony are now bringing PlayStation 2 games to the service, so we're crossing our fingers that we will see the rest of the Ratchet & Clank collection eventually make its way, along with Sly as well, Sly 2 and Sly 3. Now, this is the PlayStation Portable version and not the PlayStation 2 version. The only difference there with the PS2 version is that it did receive some graphical enhancements. That being said though, I am actually happy that this is the PSP version, because if it is a PSP game being put onto the catalog, it means that we get to play the games at higher resolution. This is seemingly something that Sony are not doing with the new PlayStation 2 emulator for PS2 games. The PSP games on PS4 and PS5 run at a native 4K resolution, whereas the internal resolution of the current PlayStation 2 games that have recently been released are running at 480p, upscaled to 1080p. This is a whole matter of preference thing, but obviously if we were to play PlayStation Portable games at their native resolution, they would look god-awful, whereas with PlayStation 2 you can kind of get away with it, just a little bit of upscaling thrown into the mix. Now, if PlayStation's recent pattern is anything to go by, this means that every single month we are receiving 3 new classic games, which seem to mainly be from either PS2 or PSP. There's another PSP game also being added this month, Gian Dia. I understand that this has quite the cult following. It is a tactical RPG, and a new PlayStation 2 game's being added, the classic Summoner, which originally came out in 2000, October of 2000. I know that this game has a massive cult following. I've always been curious to actually know what this game is, because I always used to see it down at the video store when I go and hire out games. It's one that I never ended up picking up as a kid, but now that it's finally coming to the PlayStation store, I might actually try it out. I'm thrilled though that like Sony are just taking a firm stance with classics. We've talked about how like it just seems as if now they're actually caring about bringing a lot of these classic titles to current PlayStation. This means that every single month that comes, it's exciting to find out what new classics are going to be added. There is still a wide array of games from PS1 to PS2 to PSP that still need to be added, but I think what Sony are doing currently right now is certainly a good start, especially with seeing the likes of, Jack now being completed, Ratchet finally coming, as well as Sly, and a lot of these other cult classics that certainly do have followings. You guys can absolutely expect a Platinum Trophy video from me towards Size Matters. I'm going to be dipping into it in a few days' time when it releases onto the service. Now guys, that's all for today. Leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Hopefully we won't be waiting too much longer before the other Ratchet and Clank games finally come to PS4 and PS5. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to the channel to keep up with everything that's going on here. Check out my other garbage social media platforms. Links in the description down below. Thank you so much to my wonderful patrons. I appreciate the support. I hope each and every one of you are having a fantastic day, and we'll talk real soon.